Hey, we're live. Welcome to Svelte Radio, or SvelteKit Radio, I guess this episode's called. So this is a special episode. We're doing it on YouTube. That's a first. Maybe not a first, actually. I think we've done a couple. Yeah, but it's a special episode. So we've got a bunch of stuff. It's a first for you. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we're doing a bunch of fun stuff today. We're talking about some cool stuff. We're showing some cool videos. And yeah,
Sean's wearing a cool cap.
Oh, nice. I'm the only one without that. Oh, you can't even tell. Yeah, it looks like it's supposed to be there.
Yeah, I debated. I told everyone beforehand, right? I have this holiday shirt on, but I have my Svelte shirt underneath. So later I might change out of the holiday shirt and we'll show the Svelte shirt.
Yeah, I feel bad now. I'm the only one that doesn't have a Svelte logo here.
Oh, I thought you had
one in the corner.
I have the shirt. Oh yeah, right. I have the corner one as well.
Background. Mine's in my head.
All right. So there's been a lot happening in Svelte world lately, but yeah, I guess we could bring on our first guests for the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we'd like to welcome Simon and Rich. Hello.
Hey, what's up,
everyone?
Hey. Who could have guessed you were on today?
Right. How's that countdown going, Rich?
Yeah.
Countdown. Yes.
Are we at 0 yet?
Tweeted out
Last I saw it was 7.
Yeah. So for anyone who is deranged enough to follow me on Twitter, I've been counting down 7, 6, 5, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, I haven't slept a lot these last few days. Down to today, essentially, because we have a little announcement.
Oh, what could it be?
Should we have a countdown? We could do one number each, like we could start top left.
All we have is a 30-second countdown, though. We're not doing 30 seconds.
I thought we were doing the live stream stuff. I don't know. How's that work?
Do you have something you want to share?
Yeah, can I share my screen in
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Sapper 1.0 will
present.
Right. Biggest turnaround in history.
Yeah. Quick change of plan.
There you go. Okay. Should I add it to the screen then?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Here we go.
We can have there we go.
Okay, so Dominic has carefully prepared a pull request that hopefully when we merge it is going to take us out of pre-release mode and launch a stable SvelteKit 1.0. We actually don't know what's going to happen here because the only way to find out if this will work is to do it. But just have a look at this changes. Just you see the amount of red in this PR?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you see the amount of files changed? It's like thousands.
Change sets.
So this must happens. Be like a record number of change sets.
I think it might be. So this is what happens when you're in pre-release mode for like 18 months. You just accumulate change set after change set after change set. And the change set CLI actually broke when Dominic did a dry run of this because it had some sort of generated GraphQL query that broke some sort of limit. And so this has been manually prepared. And I guess I'll just hit the button. Okay, for ceremony's sake, I'm gonna approve the pull request before merging it.
Let's just review it file by file, just in case.
We're all getting a live insight right now.
So what's behind the Frankfield's teams?
Oof, that's better.
No, you need to approve. You just
Oh no.
This is what happens when we do it live.
If that's the only hiccup live, then I'm...
How about now? This is live coding at its best.
Yeah.
Squash and merge.
Okay.
Merge.
Wow, that was a quick comment.
Oh, nice.
Nice comment. So now we just have to wait and see if the action actually works or not.
Minutes. Maybe you want to explain like how does this how does it work? Like what engineering is this showing off?
So
I don't know.
behind
Change
this
sets
is change sets.
Yeah, Simon, you'll explain it better than me.
So behind this is change sets, which I don't know by whom it is, but it's a great Atlassian, right? They invented it. It's a great CI tool which comes with some, in this case, GitHub actions and so on. And basically, whenever you create a change to your code, you create a change set with it, which is just a file consisting of 3 words, which makes, when you have 1,600 of them, for some pretty funny 3 word combinations. And so what it then does is to see, okay, there was a new change set, and then it automatically creates a release PR, which when you merge it, fires off a GitHub action, which does all the heavy lifting for you, like publishing the things to NPM, updating the change log, and so on. And yeah, but because in this case we had like over 1,000 change sets, the tech behind it was just not like, couldn't do it anymore. So Dominic looked how it works under the hood and basically faked the change set, what change set would have done. He did it locally through a script, and this is like the final step, merging this PR, which hopefully triggers the change sets action to then release SvelteKit 1.0 for us.
What I like about change sets opens the PR for you, and so it tells you what the changes are, and you click merge and it releases for you. And I think that's really, really nice, like a really nice flow.
Does it also
I was so
thing...
skeptical at the beginning. I don't like robots taking away my agency.
Good job.
But I'm so grateful for change sets. It's changed my life. Yeah. I have some news. Just got word from the producers that if we now do npm show SvelteJS/kit version, boom!
Yes,
it worked. SvelteKit is now released.
I just went in to look to see if we had some confetti we could throw off, but I don't have any loaded in.
You have like buzzers.
Can you bring up Peru's like package and just play it on your screen?
I think I'm the soundboard guy, so I can have the.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Noxious sounds.
So congratulations
to
to the team. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you for all of your hard work. I know it's been a rough week, a lot of busy nights.
It's
worth it.
Yeah. So before we head on into maybe talking about a bit about the journey of SvelteKit for like, it's been 18 months, right? We thought we could show some cool videos that people have made for this occasion. So yeah, I guess Brittany, you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I will go ahead and load them up, and just bear with me in between because now it's saying there's an issue.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I had this before. I just wonder if it's like a maximum with StreamYard. There was an issue connecting your stream. Try restarting your browser if it continues.
Oh no.
So I can restart my browser, but I'm gonna be gone and come back. So
that's fine. We can chat for a bit.
All right. I will be right back.
I can tell everyone what I'm doing. I'm in Madeira having a lot of fun on vacation. It's very nice over here. 20 degrees and no snow. It's not dark. It's different than Stockholm. That's for sure. Oh, she's already back.
Yeah, right. I'm already back, but it's still doing it. So I'm gonna actually shut it all down. I'll be back in a couple of minutes, I guess.
All right.
So Madeira is an island that's just kind of in the middle of nowhere, right?
It's just north of the Canary Islands, off the coast of Africa, somewhere. Nice. I think.
Wouldn't mind being there south.
Yeah, it's actually very nice.
Are you running from the authorities? Like.
Yeah, so I go to Portugal, that doesn't have any extradition treaties with the rest of Europe. Promise. Pinky promise. No. Yeah. So Brady's asking, are you guys going to take a bit of a vacation now? Rich, Simon?
Yeah.
Immediately
Not
after
yet,
launch is the worst possible time to take a vacation, because what typically happens is a bunch of
Issues?
new people arrive, and with the new people come new issues. But I am taking some time off for Christmas, which I definitely need.
Yeah, me
That
too.
makes sense.
Nice.
Let's hope for no issues. Yeah, Brittany, you're back.
No, she's not.
Nope.
No dice.
It's still not working. I tried a different browser even. So
Okay.
this was working before the stream, folks. This is like serious. I'm going to go back into my other browser so I have access again. But
yeah. Which video were you going to start with? I can try. Monogram. All right.
And I will be right back.
Okay. Yep. All right. Let's see here. Ooh. I'm going to remove your browser window there, Rich, if that's fine. And then we'll see.
I don't know if we explained what we're doing. We have some pre-recorded videos from the community,
Yes.
right? That we're showing.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to get working.
And I came prepared for this. I have everything downloaded in a folder. I tried right before the stream and they worked. And I just figured out that there was a bug that I had to remove it and then do it again. And it worked fine. And now it just doesn't.
We'll see.
But Kevin
I'll try
has
now.
it loaded up, it looks like. So
Fingers crossed.
all right.
We've really enjoyed using Svelte so far, and we think it's going to be a really big part of 2023 for us. We're super excited for the launch of 1.0, and we're just here to kind of talk about some of the reasons of why we love Svelte.
Why our team loved Svelte so much. A lot of people on our team, they just jumped on it.
We've been using it for several months now. We initially started using Svelte for raster, and raster was initially built with Vue.js, and then we built a prototype with React and a prototype with Svelte. And we realized that the Svelte version blew all of the others away. Because of the nature of the way raster is, it's very important for keeping the DOM very lean. And that's why it was a no-brainer for us to go with Svelte. But ever since we started that journey, we've learned a lot about Svelte and we've grown to love it. And actually, we've used it for a lot of projects at Monogram.
Coming from React, stores in Svelte are a big deal because they're pretty simple. They're pretty simple, easy to grasp. You can have a lot of them. I know we use a lot of them in raster. It turns out to be extremely helpful in e-commerce. I mean, that's been working great. Svelte in general, it's a framework that it's easy to grasp just by looking at some code, just by transitioning from something like Next/React to almost boilerplate JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, if you will. The code is really simple, and my initial reaction when I looked at it and I played with it, I was like, there's a catch. This is simple, but there's a catch. A few weeks in, or probably less than that, I realized that there's no catch. This is it. This is amazing.
All right. The Monogram videos are always so well produced.
They are. They talked a little in there about raster, and so raster was at the Spring Svelte Summit from 2021, and they did a great video for that. And then Patrick did another one at Svelte Summit in person in the fall.
Right.
On what was it on? It was him and another person, and they did a talk. Was it for Monogram too?
No, this was, I think, another. Oh, we should know this.
I know, right?
I don't think it was a talk on Monogram, but yeah, we can link that later. We have some more videos in the meantime. So which one should we do next?
I would like to see Theo next.
Theo? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
There he is. All right.
Hey, Svelte Radio. This is like my third attempt at taking this video, but yeah, please bear with me. I'm Theo Steiner, software engineer at Line and passionate member of the Japanese Svelte community. Brittany posted a call for testimonials on Mastodon, and I just have to take one because I think SvelteKit is the reason I got my job in the first place. What I really like about it is that it takes your hand and teaches you concepts and best practices about building web apps step by step as you're ready for them. The second website I ever built in my life actually was a SvelteKit page, even though Kit at the time had just only barely reached beta status. The first website I ever built was literally just handwritten HTML with some JavaScript sprinkled on top. So at the time, if I would have dived straight into backend code with something like Express or Next.js, my head would have just exploded. But SvelteKit had this really nice concept called adapters that made the shift into becoming a full stack developer really, really easy for me. So at first I used adapter static, and I could just focus on simple concepts like routing and pre-rendering and learn those before I moved on. Then I used adapter netlify, and I used it to build netlify functions and learn my way around request and response objects and the basic concepts of the web, like fetch. I didn't even know fetch at the time. And what I learned there gave me the confidence to apply for freelance jobs. And of course, I convinced my first clients to let me build their new shiny app using SvelteKit. If not for SvelteKit and its way of making very complex topics feel approachable, I would have never learned all these things. And I would never have taken the plunge to apply even for a job in programming. And because of it, I ended up applying for my dream job and actually passing too. So while this might be a fairly personal take, I think the bottom line of Kit making full stack development seem less daunting applies to every junior engineer. So I really want to say thank you to all the maintainers. You built something really nice here. And if I get to do a shout out here, I would love to shamelessly plug svelte.jp and also kit.svelte.jp, where Tomo Amsan and many other members from Japan's beautiful Svelte community put great effort into translating everything Svelte related into Japanese. Thank you and bye-bye.
Oh, wow.
I love that one. Theo. So good.
Yeah, I had no idea they translated the Kit docs. I wonder how up to date they are. Like, you guys have been doing a bunch of updates lately, right, to the docs?
Yes.
Yeah.
The biggest changes recently have been to the interactive tutorial, which Simon and I have been working on for the last week or so. But there's always changes to the docs. This is one of the biggest challenges, I think, around internationalization, is the fact that content is constantly changing, and keeping it up to date is a real challenge. And so that is one of the things that we're going to be thinking about a lot post 1.0. It's on our long list of things to think deep thoughts about now that we have a stable version to build upon.
Awesome. Yeah, so we'll talk a bit about the future of SvelteKit in a bit, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how long we're gonna need for all the other sections, but yeah. So next video, which one are we showing?
Yeah, we can go ahead and show you pick. I like Amelia. I'm just looking in the.
Let's see Amelia talk about Svelte. And there we go.
Hey, I'm Amelia. I've been working on this SVG sandbox tool for quite a while now. My goal is to have this kind of learning environment where you can learn the scalable vector graphic syntax and you can interact with it kind of like a design tool. So over here, I can move things around, but I can also see how the code updates over on the right and vice versa. So you get this really fast feedback loop of when I change the code, how does the design update? And when the design updates, how does that code change? So one of the things that I really like about using Svelte for this project is that Svelte has a really low floor. So it was really easy to get started. You basically make a new SvelteKit repo and jump in. But it has a pretty high ceiling. So I've been working on this code base for about a year now on the side, on and off, and I haven't gotten to the point where I'm really frustrated with it yet. So if we download one of these vector graphics and drag it in here. We can zoom in. There's all kinds of controls here. And there's quite a lot of code that goes into something this complex, and I haven't yet gotten frustrated with the code base, which is really saying something. So something I really like about using Svelte for this is the custom actions. So I have a custom action for dragging a number input and using that to change the number. And I've used this in quite a few places in this app. And the code is really quite simple. You just use this custom action, and I have a few like specific events that it triggers when you drag and click those number inputs. And this is a pattern I use a lot with Svelte apps, where I have this recipe and I tend to use it in a lot of new places. I have this little svelte.recipe website as well, where I throw recipes like this, and there's so many more that I need to update this site with, but this is things like, how do I make a basic scatter plot? And it's really not that much code, and I tend to repeat myself over and over again, so I just throw them in here, and every new Svelte app that I make, I have this wonderful library of code to copy and paste that I can modify and use over and over again to kind of make that prototyping way faster and easier. And those are a few things I really like about Svelte.
All right. Yeah, I've been wanting to play around with this SVG tool for so long. She's been teasing it on Twitter for like God knows how long. And it looks so cool.
She said she just gets to work on it on like nights and weekends, so it's really just like after hours kind of thing. She's been plugging away on it for a long time, but it looks really awesome. I did finally find Patrick's talk. I've been looking for it since I said that, and so it was stores, having fun with stores, and I linked it for the chat. So
awesome.
I think SVGs are always something that's really, really difficult. But I'm also amazed at how people can optimize their spare time, because I don't think I can produce anything that good in my spare time.
Yeah, I hear you. I think honestly, GitHub should just give her free reign to do whatever she wants. That would work for me.
And Ron said in the chat, it's at Wattenberger on Twitter if you want to follow her.
And her talk at Svelte Summit was great as well.
Yes, also really good talk.
All right. Next up.
I know who's next.
Let's do the one called Launch Party by Amy.
All right, let's go.
There is so much within SvelteKit to be excited about. First, SvelteKit uses a folder-based routing system, and this means that your project can co-locate your page files alongside its components. And I love having everything that I'm working with all in one place. I don't have to go digging through a folder tree to find what I'm looking for. And the fact that my page and layouts start with a plus means that they appear at the top of their directory. SvelteKit has the option to group pages without compromising the URL. So for example, I can put all of my app's dashboard pages together, or everything related to authentication. Within SvelteKit, I can easily control where my code is run. I can use a pluspage.server.js or TS file if you're working with TypeScript to force my code to run on the server, or I can use a pluspage.js or TS file, which will run on the server during server-side rendering and in the browser during client-side navigation. In this example, I'm using pluspage.ts and the load function it provides to load all of the data from Supabase and pass it over to my page component. In Svelte, I love having everything, my HTML, my JavaScript, and CSS all within my component file. Even better, my CSS doesn't bleed over into other components. And I know what happens in my component stays in my component. Svelte is opinionated in all the right places. With stores, I get state management out of the box, and this makes it easy to manage data throughout my application. I can easily have multiple components respond to changes in the data. And forms work exactly how you'd expect a form to work. You don't have to write code for weird state management. You can simply leverage the built-in web APIs, making the most out of what the browser gives you out of the box. With Svelte, there's an animation library built right in, and I can add animations and page transitions with a single line of code, creating an elegant solution. With the tween and flip libraries, I can set a card to animate after a specified amount of time and automatically animate to its new location on the page. With Spring, I can create physics-based animations that are controlled through stiffening and dampening parameters, creating realistic and natural movement. In Svelte, I can create custom actions and events that can be reused in multiple places throughout my application. In this example, I've created an action that will allow the user to click outside the focus area to close it. I use the functionality with an options menu, a modal, and a slide out panel. All of the code that you see here is coming from the project that we build inside of my course, Everything Svelte. We explore all of these features and more as we build out an application called the Dollar Hauler, which allows users to create invoices and associate them with clients. It uses the latest and greatest version of Supabase and SvelteKit, which is a fantastic pairing. I'd love to have you join the community and me. And if you go to everythingsvelte.com now, you get early access to the lessons that are available. And right now, there are over 80. The starter tier will be completed at the end of this month, and the complete tier, which explores Cypress testing, sending email reminders, and GitHub actions, will be finished next month. It's currently marked down 40% until all of the content is completed, and I hope you'll check it out. And special thanks to Rich Harris and the SvelteKit team for making such a fantastic product that's easy to get excited about.
Wow.
You're muted, Kev.
Oh no! Oh, I was just saying that was some good marketing. I'm sold. I want to use Svelte and SvelteKit.
I know, right? Like so many good things to use about it. And that landing page that Amy created, that 90s, like brings me back to my childhood. I love that page. But like the spring animations, the transitions, the stores, like there's so many good features, and those are more about Svelte, but like the folder-based routing and all the fun SvelteKit stuff that we get to is great.
Yeah. All right. I think we have a couple of more, and then sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to chime in. We're currently number 2 on Hacker News, right after Elon Jet being suspended. So if someone can support us overtaking Elon Jet, that'd be great. Thank you. There's only 935 more points to go. So any
yes. All right.
Drama.
I'll let you pick the rest of them too. You can do whatever.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, we'll take a look at what Dominic has to say about SvelteKit. So this is another Dominic with an E and not with an I. So let's hear from Dominic.
I'm Dominic, a dev lead at Makina, an EPAM company. And today I want to tell you about our award-winning SvelteKit application. We already won a .com award, a W3 award, and an internal agency award. So, to the application. We built a pre-order system for one of our clients, which we released last year in November. We had 8 weeks for development from the ground up and built it with SvelteKit in combination with Tailwind. The backend application was developed in .NET. The application was easily managed, and even our backend developers jumped into the frontend code in SvelteKit, and the onboarding took them only 2 hours. So SvelteKit is really easy to learn and onboard new developers. If you want to give SvelteKit a try, now would be the best time ever.
I think that it definitely is the best time ever.
It's always the best time. Let's face it. It's always the best time.
Yeah, I'm pretty amazed they built it last year, right? So they must have seen a lot of changes along the way.
I think anyone building this year has seen some.
That is true.
Let's just go ahead and say a little bit of frustration.
Or a lot of fun.
Even the maintainers.
Yeah, how do you think we felt?
I'm sure.
We're very calm and placid. It's just always calmness, and like it's like being in a salt bath.
Yeah, no frustration ever, right?
They're
just
commenting.
Happy smiles.
Rich, if they're keeping you kidnapped, please blink.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can talk about the year of terrible breaking changes, because I think it's actually kind of instructive when you think about why these changes happened and why we were motivated to make them, in spite of the fact that it was going to break so many people's apps. And to me, what it comes down to is that, like, designing this stuff is impossible to do from first principles. Like, you need to try these ideas in the real world and see what works, see what doesn't. And you can't do that without a user base. And when it turns out that certain elements of your design don't actually stand up to real world use, you have to change them. And to me, this is the value of a framework in the first place. This is why projects like SvelteKit exist, because if the answers to these questions were easily known ahead of time, then we wouldn't need application frameworks. Everything would just be obvious, but it's not obvious. And so the fact that we've gone through these breaking changes is testament to me to how much thoughtful care and attention the community have put into this framework. Not just the maintainers, like a lot of the design features of SvelteKit have been directly informed by the experiences that people have had while building stuff with it. And so for those people who have suffered through these breaking changes, I am sorry, but I am also extremely grateful on behalf of the SvelteKit user base to come, because now everyone gets the benefit of your experience.
Yeah. And we're going to talk more about the journey of SvelteKit in a bit. Before that, we have, I think, 2 more videos. And yeah, let's hear from Antonio.
My name is Antonio Zaswich, and I love building with Svelte. And I love SvelteKit because it streamlines the process of building with Svelte even more. The first time I used Svelte, there was nothing like Vite like we know today. There was only this template repository you would dgit to create a new application. Adding TypeScript was a whole thing, and figuring out how to deploy also raised questions. SvelteKit takes the guessing game out of getting started with Svelte. You just type one command and add the technologies you want, and you're off to your races. Portably deployable to pretty much anywhere. It unifies the Svelte community, giving us a proven path for creating not only web applications, but also libraries, thanks to the SvelteKit package command. With this command, you can bundle up your lib folder in a snap, ready to publish on NPM. I also love SvelteKit because it shares a lot of the qualities that I love about Svelte itself. It's flexible, performant by default, and empowers me to be super productive. For my apps, for example, I'm using the Firebase client, so I'm not really using all the fancy Kit features like endpoints and form actions that much. But sometimes I do need an endpoint, and then it's just creating one file away. Svelte and SvelteKit empower me to build pretty much anything I can imagine, giving me access to all the tools I could need, but getting out of the way as much as possible so I can focus on building the application or library. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have fun on this special episode on Svelte Radio.
All right. So that was actually our last video. That was a great testimonial. More. We do.
We do.
I must have. Oh, then I missed it.
I do want to say something about that video. So
all right.
And like rendering is one of my favorite things about SvelteKit. Like, I love the ability to bring the front end closer to the back end, and it gives me the power to be a back end developer without having to know like all of these back end tools. Like, it's all just right there in the same code that I'm writing and co-located together. And I really like that about it. And being able to specify like .server and have things only be on the server is really nice also.
Yep, I agree.
We have the Stack Blitz videos, the other one. Do you have that?
I do not have that one.
Okay.
Let's see if you can do it.
Okay, I'll try, but if it doesn't work, I'm gonna have to give it to you because it's a really good one. Oh, it worked. Okay, good.
All right, here we go.
I just needed to wait on it.
Hi, I'm Eric Simons. I'm the co-founder and CEO of StackBlitz, and on behalf of the entire StackBlitz team, just wanted to say that we're incredibly excited about SvelteKit hitting 1.0. I've been using it for a while. A handful of us have actually on different side projects and things like that. And we've also been working with Rich on some stuff that he's been using for the way that you can actually learn how to use SvelteKit. So if you've actually gone to learn.svelte.dev yet, it's pretty cool. Basically, it's this interactive tutorial where you can actually write real SvelteKit code and actually see the result. So as you can see, as I type, I'm seeing the result here. And this is actually running the full SvelteKit dev server entirely inside of your browser. And it's using our web container API to do that. So it's like super fast. You can actually write real server-side code. You can actually just go ahead and just pop around the tutorial, and each different part of the tutorial will automatically pull in the relevant code, actually reload it in the preview. And it's just an amazing experience that they've been able to build here and really set the bar for, you know, how different, how to actually learn to use something like SvelteKit. And it not just allows you to use the front end, which a lot of other, you know, REPLs or sandboxes have allowed you to do in the past, but you can actually write server-side code inside of this and actually interactively learn. So, and this is actually how I learned how to use SvelteKit, by the way, was actually going through the initial tutorial that Rich had made. And so I can attest, it's quite good. So anyways, we're incredibly excited. We're really excited to be working with the SvelteKit team on these different aspects of learning how folks can use SvelteKit. And congratulations to the team. I'm excited to give the 1.0 a spin.
Oh, the .new domain.
Yes, and I'm also excited to try out the new learn.svelte.dev. How updated is that? Can we talk about that for a minute?
Yes. It's mostly stable. The content, I would say, is about 80% complete at this point. As you go through it, you'll see some exercises that say coming soon. But the application is a lot more robust than it was a little while ago. Like, it turns out that if you're building something that downloads a JavaScript file that installs Node inside inside your browser, and then like installs Vite on top of that, and then like runs, there's a lot of moving parts, and so it's easy to introduce mistakes. And so it took us a little while to figure out how to make it actually sing, but I think it's in pretty good shape now. There's still a few little rough edges to sand down, but I think we'll pretty soon be able to take off the experimental warning and actually start using that to teach people how to use both Svelte and SvelteKit. There are a couple of caveats. We learned some interesting things this week about how you can't embed images inside your application, because in order to use the technology that web containers use, you need to have some very strict isolation, which means that you can't use external media elements unless they have a very particular header attached to them. So we added a proxy server so that we could proxy some of our own assets so that you could use those in the tutorial. But there's all of these little nuances that rear their heads when you try and build something like that. But I've been playing around with it the last few days, and I'm pretty stoked. I think this is like the new baseline of how to build full stack documentation. Hopefully other people are going to take the idea and run with it as well.
Yeah, I think it is a great way to learn. We had a question. Is the tutorial open source, like the actual code part of it, to contribute?
It's on SvelteJS/learn.svelte.dev, I think.
Yeah, and in fact, if you go to learn.svelte.dev, as you're working through the exercises, there'll be a edit this page on GitHub link or something like that.
Okay.
In the bottom left, you click on that, it will take you directly to the place where you can propose changes to the content and so on.
Awesome. I did link that in the chat for everyone. Learn.svelte.dev is the URL if you want to go and visit that. Yeah. It is a great way to get started.
Yeah, even the tutorial, like the thing that was
the original
that existed before this. Well, I mean, it still exists, right?
Yeah.
But even that was very, very nice to use. But that you could only learn about the front end stuff there, right? So that's the new thing.
Yeah, the real power of this is that it still blows my mind that this is even possible, but that there's a Node instance running inside my browser, which means I'm not only able to like compose simple Svelte components like in the old REPL, but I'm actually able to like have a Node server running, which means not only Svelte components but also the other files that make up a SvelteKit app. And we even have a file tree, and some of the tutorials have exercises where it's like you're tasked to create, for example, a plus page.js file and put a load function in there. And all this just works. And it's a great way to learn SvelteKit interactively.
Yeah.
This is a full container, isn't it? Running in your browser. That's like a computer with an operating system that you can use as you would your own computer.
Yeah, it's bananas. The fact that you're able to do that, and that like it's practical. Like you download a few megabytes and it's there, and that is obviously cached, so you only need to do it once, and then you can just run Node inside your browser. It's
crazy.
Crazy technology.
Yeah, web containers,
next level.
They also it's not just Node. Apparently, one of the harder ones was Git. Getting Git to run in a browser means that you could clone repos and fork and change branches and all that stuff. So I think at the recent Vite conf, they announced. By the way, we should talk about Vite and SvelteKit. But the recent Vite conf, they announced some feature where I think it's called CodeFlow, where like you can review PRs with that. I haven't actually tried it myself. It's something that I really want to try, but getting Git in the browser was one step harder than Node.
I have tried CodeFlow. I really like it because it just gives you the ability to go straight from a code. You don't have to clone it locally. You don't have to worry about clogging up your local system. You just have this container there that is disposable, kind of. You can make a pull request and then it's gone. You can delete it. You don't need to worry about it. So I really love it. It's amazing. And you were talking about svelte.dev/tutorial is the original one, which is like just the Svelte compiler pieces that you can learn there. And then learn.svelte.dev gives you that full stack application capabilities where you can have your different rendering types and learn like the whole full stack application.
Yeah.
Learn.svelte.
Yeah, and so I guess let's talk a bit about like the journey of SvelteKit. Where did we start? We started with Snowpack, and what version?
I mean, how far back do you want to go?
all the way back.
It goes further back than Snowpack.
I want to go back to where Rich announced it and said it will be out in weeks rather than months.
Years.
Yeah, I mean, look, we developers are famously bad at time estimations, and this. I think all of us underestimated just how much goes into building a polished application framework. When you think about the things that are involved in an application framework, it doesn't seem like that big a lift, but as you actually try and build it, it turns out that these things are really complicated, especially if you want to have like flexibility baked into the core of the design, and you want to be able to solve common problems while also letting people use escape hatches and do their own thing when they need to. It's hard, and it just took us way longer than we thought it would. But we're actually kind of understating it a little bit by going back as far as Snowpack, because really this is the culmination of a 5-year process. We started working on Sapper at the tail end of 2017. And that project, which kind of started as me scratching my own itch because I was building a bunch of like server-rendered client-side routing apps at the New York Times where I worked at the time. And I found myself repeating a lot of very tedious work, decided to package that up into a framework, decided to open source it. That was Sapper. After 3 years of that, we had learned a tremendous amount, mostly that we were on the wrong path. And so that's when we started SvelteKit about 2 years ago. So 3 years of Sapper, 2 years of SvelteKit, 5 years in total of making mistakes in public and learning from them. And that's what it took to get to where we are.
I think it's a little humbling that you can admit that there were mistakes and like look back and say, hey, we need to make these changes. So I appreciate that part of it, that as maintainers, you have to have this thing that's ever evolving. And I mean, we're stable now, but this is not where it's going to be forever. So we're constantly changing and evolving with the ecosystem.
Well, not just that, but the goalposts keep moving. Like when we started SvelteKit, we were the first, I think, the first major SSR framework that used an unbundled dev server. Snowpack initially, and then soon after Vite. We were the first framework to have the concept of adapters. Like we had all of these big ideas about how frameworks should work. And then like other frameworks came along, saw these ideas, made sense, and adopted them themselves. So the tide is constantly lifting in development. The rate of progress is really astonishing. And so like you absolutely just cannot stand still. even if code was a thing that you can just leave unattended and expect it to still be okay, which like you can't, and I don't trust any developer that isn't horrified by code they wrote more than 6 weeks prior. You just need to constantly be upping your game, because there's so much incredible work happening in the web development world all the time.
And I think also on the flip side of that, a lot of the stuff we do, the discussions we have, are making the right decision the first time, or making the right decision and releasing it once, not kind of having loads of backwards compatible stuff, because it gets really messy and confusing for new engineers, new developers, when they're Googling and the documentation relates to one way of doing it, but the current trend is a new way of doing it, and there's another way of doing it, and a third way, a fourth way of doing it. So making the right decision, sort of getting out there correctly and saying that's our API and that's all of our API.
Yeah. So let's start from the Snowpack era of Svelte, the Svelte meta framework that was once called separate and is now called SvelteKit, I guess. So what are some like big milestones that we've been through? We moved to V. That was super early, right? And then what happened next?
Yeah, so I think the Vite change was V2 came out in February of 21. And that was the first time that it was possible to use it for a project like this, because it introduced hooks to enable you to do server-side rendering. Prior to that, it was a very view-centric project, and we couldn't have built anything on top of it. What were the big milestones? I mean, obviously the release candidate announcement at Svelte Summit in September was a big one.
The routing structure
I'd say the new routing system, I would say, is another big milestone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that was like July, August.
Yes.
Yeah. Other big milestones, like I started working at Vercel in November last year.
It's probably a big one, yeah.
Having the bandwidth to work on this project full time really made it possible to like not be so reactive to issues, but actually start planning the design a little bit more. And then Simon joined. When did you join?
In July.
June, July.
Yeah.
Joined Vercel. So we now have 2 full-time core team members at Vercel, and that has been transformative for like what we're able to do. We have a team of kind of fluctuates in size, but like 10 or so core maintainers, and prior to that, we were all just kind of doing what we could. And Svelte has always been this kind of volunteer-run, community-centric project, and that has continued. Like the rest of the maintainer team is still very active, but the fact that Simon and I can do like the bulk of the grunt work because we're being paid to do it has just like completely changed the pace of development.
It's not an after-hours hobby anymore, or something you're doing like for the New York Times, like just to get your job done.
Well, it kind of is. It's meta because it is getting its job done, but also it's not just to get its job done. Anyway. I think also a couple of other changes that Paul has mentioned are the edge rendering, and also the root splitting, which are quite highly contentious things. I think that people demanded them quite a lot. They weren't strictly, well, let's say root splitting wasn't strictly necessary because of the way Svelte works or SvelteKit works. But now it's there. It's really, really good to have, because, for example, if someone's only ever going to hit one page on your site and then jump off, you don't want them to load the whole site. So there's some pretty cool things like that too.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Someone mentioned shadow endpoints.
That's a big one, yeah.
Yeah.
I still feel like there's a little bit of magic there, though, with the data passing between the endpoint layer and the UI layer, and you get like the data object that is, there's a little magic there. And shadow endpoints, I will forever call them shadow endpoints.
Yeah, it's just the best name, like marketing wise.
No, we're not calling them that.
Yeah. So okay. So we did the routing. We did the form actions. That's probably the same era as the routing, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Or kind of happened at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. The naming
and
of
then,
stuff. Let's not forget the naming of stuff.
Right. That's the biggest. Yeah.
Stuff.
So what's stuff called nowadays? Does it still exist?
No,
it no longer
doesn't exist in
What
that form
was
anymore. So for those who just joined the SvelteKit recently, stuff was we had something to like share data between the different load functions or shadow endpoints as they were called back then, and this was like stuff. We didn't come up with a name that was like all encompassing and generic enough, and so someone just mentioned like maybe we should call it stuff, and so that's what we ultimately went with. And
was it between different routes load functions?
No, it's
you
if
could
you
share
a layout
within,
and then you have a page.
Oh, okay.
The layout can pass
like
data
passing
to the page.
to the child. Kind of.
So there are better ways to do that now.
Yeah.
Like now you actually pass the data itself, and then all of the data gets merged and is available to the entire page through the page data store, which is just a massively better API in every way. But it eluded us for a long time, and prior to that, the way to communicate between load functions was to pass this stuff object around.
Yeah. But I think stuff, when you have to call something stuff, is probably quite a big indicator that maybe the API is not quite right. So it's kind of handy to have that name there in your face going, is there a better way of doing this?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably.
Better than calling it context. Everyone calls it context. Too many contexts.
Yeah.
Well, it was called context for a time.
Yeah.
But then we have all these things called context. We have the event context on the server, event.context, which is now event.locals. The Svelte component context that you access through the get context and set context API. There's like at least a couple of other things called
module context.
What context is your context in?
Module context, yeah. So
context everywhere.
Yeah. Well, we've had a long journey, but we are finally here to 1.0. So excited to give it a try. I know I upgraded a few days ago. We've got a Vite preprocess now as a new change that happened. So no Svelte preprocess anymore. It's now.
Wait, what? That's new.
Yeah. So Svelte preprocess went away, and it is now Vite preprocess. You'll see that change.
I think Dominic can talk about
that. Was a breaking change, actually, a couple days ago.
Yeah. So we're going to bring on a couple of people to talk about some different features later in the episode. So we can dive into that probably at some point. Yeah. So let's check out the new website.
Absolutely.
Do you guys want to show this new website off? Rich, Simon, who wants to do it?
Sure. Let me share my screen.
Yep. Let's see here.
God, there's so many steps you have to jump through in order to share the screen. Yeah, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yes. There's no pretty dark mode though. Like, what is this?
Dark mode. All right. Let's go to.
I just like giving people crap. It's fine.
Woo!
Yeah.
Ooh.
We have dark mode.
See, that was a blocking feature for 1.0. We needed to.
Yeah.
It literally was. It was on the 1.0 milestone. Can I offer an unpopular opinion?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We do these often. Yes.
Don't wait till you do it.
So for one thing, like a lot of things just aren't optimized for dark mode. And so whenever you're in dark mode, there'll be that one website or that one app that just spoils the party. And like it's like a sharp edge pointing into your eye as you're trying to work. But number two, I'm often working late at night, and the light from the screen emanating from the hex FFF background on my websites is what keeps me awake. So I'm going to start a campaign for no more dark mode.
I have to say, when you first, I don't know when it was, but at some point you shared a screenshot of some piece of code with me, and I saw, oh, he's also using light mode, and it's like, I don't know, it was like the first person I've ever met that also uses light mode like me, and so I thought, yeah, good decision, Rich.
I completely agree about like the point in your eye, like it is stabbingly blinding. I don't know how to say that better. That grammar was awful, but it is blinding, especially when you're working late at night. And that's why I like dark mode though. So it's like the opposite. Yeah, I guess if you get like one that's not dark mode, then you're like, but it's just.
Yeah, I have a friend who swears by using like a light theme for VS Code. I think he has a point as well. Like you can, it's easier to read code for long sessions, I think, with a lighter theme than a dark one. That's just like my
science.
Science. Is it though?
Yeah, I believe there are some papers about that light mode is like,
yeah, I have some big memory.
Keeps you concentrated a little more, but I guess ultimately it comes down to preference. And I have to admit, when it's late at night, the light mode, I sometimes switch it to dark mode too, then, because it's then just too blinding for me.
I'm glad we have the option though. I do think that our dark mode looks kind of nice. Like the orange on the black is, I think, a really nice combination. We haven't yet been able to apply these styles to the Svelte website. That is a post-launch to do. But it's on the learn.svelte.dev tutorial already. So
yeah,
I think it's an improvement on what we had before.
So do you want to show us around the website? What can you do on the website?
Yeah, so it's a very simple website. It only has documentation and this landing page, which, as ever, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to Akeem Vedam. He's our resident designer. Pours his heart and soul into producing these beautiful mock-ups in Figma, and the artwork that you can see. This the Svelte machine, we call it. Just really beautiful stuff, and without Akeem, this would all look like a dog's breakfast. So thank you to him. We have a little blurb giving you a little bit of marketing, fast, fun, and flexible. And then a quick start.
No more military grade stuff.
Yeah,
no more military grade. Yeah, a lot of people probably won't get that reference, but prior to SvelteKit, Sapper, the tagline was military grade web apps, because Sapper is a term of art for a combat engineer.
I was a sapper. I did 2 years in the army.
You were a sapper?
Oh, really?
Did I tell you that? Yeah, I was a combat engineer. Yeah. So I immediately knew the reference. Yeah. Probably why I chose the framework in the first place. So.
Yeah, well, so you'll appreciate more than most people then that, like, if you're building for Internet Explorer and Safari, then you are also a combat engineer, and so that is why we called it.
So part of a separate job is to build things and then to blow stuff up, and I was the blowing up.
Yeah, it feels appropriate. Some people didn't like the military terminology or the Borat landing page that you got when you created a new Sapper project. So we changed all that, and we've gone all professional and sleek.
I miss Borat.
It is fast, it is fun, and it is flexible. And we think those three things are all critically important.
We have lots of acronyms there. In the flexible section, we have SPA, MPA, SSR, SSG.
Oh, you keep going. ISR, DPR. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
it's check now. Okay.
we wanted to get each of these little blocks of text to be about the same size on whatever screen width you have. So we had the
responsive design is like such a pain sometimes.
Oh, it really is. Anyway, so we have a little code snippet that you can paste into your terminal to get started. Just want to call out that when you select this, it uses theme colors for the selection.
Ooh.
I like that.
And it skips the $sign. Nice
Where's
touch.
the soundboard?
Yeah, we need.
Oh, I have that.
There's more.
I have yay. That's my yay.
There we go.
I love the cut of the video that we have. It's like a shortened, like little snippets of the video. The Svelte Origins, if you don't know what that is, the documentary.
Yeah, so this is a 30-minute documentary that came out back in June, I think. And we just like took little bits out of it just to give people who come into this for the first time a little bit of a flavor of what Svelte is all about. And it has closed captioning. Thanks to Jeff Rich, who figured out how to add closed captioning to a video and not make it look like a disaster. So that's pretty cool. And you can like toggle the volume on and off if you want to hear what people are saying. And if you do want to watch the documentary, if you haven't seen it yet, it's pretty good. It's a good watch, and you can just click here to see the full documentary.
I agree. And we have a guest star. I want to say, can we make Anthony just 1 second? Don't stop sharing your screen.
Yeah.
But
Consumer of time. Hello.
Oh, she looks so tired.
Hello. No voice today.
So adorable.
Yeah, that's too cute.
Yes, too cute. Oh, how did we get there? We go.
Yeah, I dropped the link to the documentary in the YouTube as well, so people can check that out.
So a lot of project websites will have what I call a bento box of features, where you have to have like a little icon for the feature, a snappy name for it, and a quick description of it, and then like you have these little grids of stuff, and no one ever looks at them. Everyone just like scrolls straight past them. So I was adamantly against having a bento box on this website, and so instead we just have like this wall of text of all.
And now you have a float. One of the
have
few places on the internet that you see a float.
Yes.
Is that a float, right?
Nice. Yeah. So this text here, the features we got them text. Originally, this text was supposed to wrap around this globe here, and so I wanted the text to like curve around the globe. But it turns out that is super hard to do in a way that works at different sizes, because you can't use floated elements inside flex layouts. Yep. Long story, it's just a float now.
Good old CSS.
Yeah. Moving on, we have a list of some of the places that you can deploy your SvelteKit applications, together with a little globe which is rendered dynamically on the edge wherever you are. This is just designed to show the fact that you can use SvelteKit to build applications that are dynamically rendering data. It's not just static stuff. Even though this is a static page and it is in fact pre-rendered, we have dynamic content on there.
I have a random aside to this too, because when I worked at Netlify, our edge did whatever the ISP city delivers is what you would see there. Is Vercel's the same way?
So it's actually inferring your location from your IP address. So here it says Brooklyn, USA. That's because right now I'm in Brooklyn. Doesn't mean that this HTML or this SVG rather was rendered in Brooklyn. We've gone back and forth on whether we should show the region that the SVG was rendered in or the region where you, the user, are. I kind of think it's more powerful to have the user's actual location, because it kind of grabs your attention and makes you realize that, oh, this was rendered dynamically right now just for me, which I think is pretty cool. But it is also slightly confusing. So I don't know. Maybe we'll change that. But for now, I kind of like how it is.
And
then,
That was
I was just going to comment, like maybe useful for people to know that this is not the default behavior. You opt into edge rendering because it's still kind of experimental, or I don't know how to frame this, but
yeah, we can talk about
we
can talk about the deployment for sure. So at the moment, this is all controlled by the adapter, by the way. This isn't a SvelteKit thing that determines whether you deploy to the edge or not. When you install an adapter, you can tell it how to behave. Because we're using the Vercel adapter, you can switch in and out of edge rendering versus a region-specific Lambda with one configuration option. In future, we would like that to be more granular. Perhaps you have some parts of your application that should be deployed close to where your data lives, but then there are other things that can run at the edge, other things that can be pre-rendered, and so on. At the moment, the actual rendering functions all have to live in the same place, which is good enough for the majority of cases, but we would like you to have a little bit more control. But yeah, this is deployed to the edge.
Nice.
The Vercel edge network.
So there's a question here. Is the source code for this site somewhere? I guess it's on GitHub.
Also open source.
Yes,
it's
in the SvelteKit repo.
Mono repo.
Okay.
Yeah. So if
in the kit
this GitHub link in the top right, just go there, in sites, and then for example, that SVG. This is the code that renders that SVG globe.
Oh, there you go.
I don't think Rich saw you like glaring at the white mode.
Yeah, I'm just blinded again. I'm just joking. Sorry. All right, and then we have a showcase
finally,
there.
Of course, we have a yes. So these are obviously it's been in beta for the last 2 years, so we don't yet have a huge number of sites using SvelteKit in production, but there's a pretty decent number, and many of them are absolutely beautiful. And so we wanted to pull out a few of our favorites and put them on here. We'll probably turn this into a full page at some point because there's enough sites that like we want to call out more of these. But for now, we just have 8 of our favorite SvelteKit apps.
So before we move on from the edge part two, one of my favorite things is to use the edge actually in an endpoint. And I don't know if everyone knows this. I had a video I was going to release on it, and a lot of things happened to me over the last couple of weeks, so I did not release it. But if you set that config for edge to true, then you get access to your platform's context event object in your load function, and you can actually use your JavaScript. Like Netlify's is on Dino, so you would have to write Dino code to actually use their edge, but you can do it inside of your JavaScript in a SvelteKit endpoint, and it's one of my favorite ways to use edge functions. I love it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there's
SvelteKit
another.
is really very flexible in that regard. Like so many different adapters to choose from. You can render on the edge. You can render serverless. You can render on GitHub pages, your own node server. So it's all up to you.
Static, like there's just every option that you can think of. You have all of the capabilities there to do it, and hybrid rendering, right?
Yeah, like you could, for example, do SSR first, and that continues on the client. Do you mean that, or?
Like each route can have its own rendered, so you can do SSR, and then you could statically pre-render a page in a route. I mean.
Yeah, that's right. That's not completely tied to adapters, but yeah, that's a different, like it's another angle.
We're not doing islands architecture where you're like different components on the same page are rendered differently, but like each route can be rendered.
So for example, this blog post, which I published while we were talking, and we can see ourselves here. Oh God!
People thought you were
just started hearing my own voice.
This is what you were doing.
Kind of meta.
This page is pre-rendered. This is static HTML. As soon as you go to this URL, you are getting static HTML directly from the CDN. But if you go to the REPL page, this is dynamically rendered because it depends on a cookie. So within the same app, we have pre-rendered and dynamically rendered content. And that's one of the great things about SvelteKit, is that you can switch between these rendering modes based on what makes sense for the thing that you're doing.
Yeah, I like the line in the docs where basically the rule is if everyone sees the same content, then pre-render it. If everyone sees different content, then make it dynamic. There's also a third option, which I only recently noticed, which is auto. I haven't figured out what that means yet.
Well, I can tell you. If a page is marked as pre-renderable with export const pre-render equals true, then that means that SvelteKit will pre-render that page. But it also means that it will not include the code to render that page in any serverless functions or server outputs that it generates. And so if you're deploying to workers or lambdas where you're size constrained, that's great because you're not including that code, you're not including any of the dependencies of that page, keeps everything nice and tight. However, there are some cases where you want to pre-render a given route, but you also want to be able to dynamically render it. Good example would be if you have, say, a blog and you have hundreds of articles, you might decide that you want to pre-render the 50 most recent articles so that people visiting those get an instant response. But you also want to be able to server render the long tail dynamically. And so you would configure the pre-rendering to pre-render just the first 50, but the route itself would have export const pre-render equals auto. And that way, the code to dynamically render will still be included in your deployment.
Beautiful.
Haven't used that.
I tried.
There's also the single page application mode, so to speak. So if you have like an admin section on your side, which we don't have on Svelte Dev, then it would also be possible to like opt out of server rendering completely and like just deliver the JavaScript package with an empty HTML shell. So you don't have to worry about, oh, does this function also run on the server because, I don't know, it's using window global object or something. So this is another thing that you can control on a per page or per section basis of your app.
All right. Yeah. So there's one last feature of the Kit website that I'm really fond of, and that's the command. What's it called? The command tool palette thing.
Oh, the search. Yeah. Sorry, I stopped sharing my screen. Let me do that again, so that we can talk about this, because I'm actually quite excited about this for a couple of reasons. Let me.
Ooh, pretty tough.
Share. Here we go. Okay, so if I press Command K or click into this input, then I get a little search window and I can start typing for documentation on, I don't know, SSR. And it'll take me directly to the relevant part of the docs. This is different than the search widget on most people's websites because most people use Algolia. I have nothing against Algolia, but I don't want to include third-party JavaScript on a website if I can help it. I don't want to be reliant on a third party correctly indexing my content and doing so frequently enough that the content doesn't get stale. I don't want to have to rely on a third party not doing things that might violate some of our ideas around privacy. All of these things. I want to be able to use search on deploy previews. All of these things are impossible if you're relying on a third-party search widget. So we built our own. And because the documentation is pretty compact, all of the documentation together comes to about 50 kilobytes of JSON. We can just load the entire thing, generate a search index inside a web worker. And when we search the docs, we're actually sending a request to the web worker, which is sending search results back. And because we're doing it that way, it works offline. We're not communicating with a third-party server. And it works completely with deploy previews. The content is always 100% up to date. And it's just a really nice way to do things. It's an investment. Like, it is not easy to build a good accessible search widget, but I'm glad that we did. I think it paid off. Another aspect of doing this ourselves is that if I go into my dev tools and disable JavaScript, reload the page.
No way. Oh my God.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Oh,
I broke it. I don't know what I did. In theory,
the 500 errors are the worst.
Yeah. Okay, well, that'll be my first post-launch to-do item.
That's before your celebration.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so
let's hide that mistake.
Yeah. Well, I think that is actually probably one milestone. We were talking about milestones earlier, and major features of SvelteKit that maybe we didn't touch on in this live stream, which is form actions and progressive enhancement. Like that. That became, for me when it was first introduced, I was like, all right, cute feature, and until you realize most input and output on the web is forms.
Yeah.
And then there was this use enhance feature that was introduced. That I feel like that's a good milestone to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a bit.
Wait, oops, sorry.
Actually, it's the next topic, so I guess we could actually just because the website you've shown the website, I think, and it's a good website. The command palette is great. You have it in VS Code. You have it on the Kit website. You have it everywhere. I guess that is a good software. Most nice what's it called, applications have a command palette of some kind, and it's super nice.
I love all of the updates. It's such a beautiful website, and it's functional too. Like, it's beautiful and functional.
Yeah,
and fun.
All right, so and fun, yes,
and flexible, and all the
other. All right, so let's talk about one of the new features of SvelteKit. One of the features of SvelteKit is probably a better way to call it, form actions. So we already have actions in Svelte, but these are other kinds of actions, right? What are form actions? Can we get a recap or an overview?
Yeah. So since HTML was a thing, the way to send data from the browser back to the server is with a form, and we've always supported submitting data via forms, but the ergonomics around it weren't particularly great, and it was really hard to do things like re-render the page with your pre-existing form data filled out if, for example, there was a validation error. And so kind of spurred on by competition from other frameworks, most notably Remix, let's be fair, because they invented forms, I think, or at least they
the way to handle forms, at least.
They
made it cool again.
Yeah, they made progressive enhancement cool, and so we decided that we would one up the ergonomics of Remix forms. And so we have this thing called use enhance, and what it is a Svelte action which you can put on any old form element, and it will allow your forms to work in the same way that your links work. So when you click a link in a SvelteKit app, it activates the client-side router, and it doesn't do a full page reload. It just fetches the code and the data that it needs to render the next page that you're navigating to. Use enhance allows you to do that with forms. On the back end, you create a thing called a form action, and you can have multiple form actions per page instead of just one. And that allows you to receive data as a form data object, and then do some action based on that, like write some data to a database or set a cookie or delete a cookie. And when you build apps this way, you find that you don't need all of your fetch code. You don't need to faff around with manual error handling and all of this stuff. Like, a lot of the stuff that you would normally have to do inside an onSubmit handler where you prevented the event default. It just works. And not only that, it just works whether or not you have JavaScript. So we have this really nice, slick approach to mutating data that I hope is going to encourage people to do things in a progressively enhanced way that means that web apps built with SvelteKit are going to just naturally be robust and reliable, and involve much less code than you would need if you were doing something with a different framework.
Yeah, and again, it's very close to the platform, because if you don't do the progressive enhancement case, it's like you're just using regular HTML with regular forms and inputs and all that stuff. And I also really like this part about SvelteKit is that the things are separated in a good way. Like, collocation is good and all, but I think too much collocation can get hairy. And it's like, okay, the line's getting maybe too blurry. You don't really know what's on the server, what's on the client anymore. And so me personally, I really like the distinction that on your plus page.svelte, you have the HTML form. You just write regular HTML there. On plus page.server.js or TS, you have your form actions, like the backend part of these things. And it's like, I at all times know in which part of on which part of the site, client or server, I'm currently coding. And I can start out just with the pure form, which works with or without JavaScript. And then when I'm done with that, I can use enhance and like make the experience, in the case you have JavaScript on your in your browser, much more pleasing. And so I really like that story, and also that split.
I really like the way that it's split up too. The having the actions object locates it in the .server file, so you know where that is. So you have the actions object, and then you create your methods, and you can use those wherever you need. And then by using the Svelte action, you get the use::enhance, and you just plop that on, and it's progressive enhancement out of the box. And it's really easy and simple.
We have some examples on learn.svelte.dev of how you can use enhance to create optimistic UI and pending states and things like that, which is really nice.
Yep. Cool.
I think the default Svelte implementation also works without JavaScript using the form actions, right?
Yep.
Something like that.
It does. I mean, it's a little tricky because it's a Wordle clone, and Wordle requires you to have a keyboard on the page. Like, you can't use the proper keyboard because it needs to blank out certain letters. And so we can't use regular inputs that you would just type into. Everything has to happen through these buttons. And so it's actually quite a challenging thing to do, to get that to work without JavaScript, but we managed to pull it off, and I think it's kind of fun.
The way you just explained that reminds me of one of the worst user interfaces I've ever seen. There's a government website that we have to use. I don't know if it's for our taxes or what, but it forces us to use a pop-up keyboard. You cannot use your actual physical keyboard. You have to type in the letters. It's horrible.
Okay.
It sounds like the have you guys seen that subreddit, Bad UI Battles or something?
I've seen similar things if I have not seen that one yet.
It's like changing the volume by typing out the volume in words or whatever. It's like all like they're trying to build the worst user experience you can
possibly think of.
Why do we need to build this when it already exists and it's already out there in the wild, and we can just go and enjoy it?
Right. It's always government websites. Government, and we did a stream with Lacey about enterprise apps in SvelteKit, and we were saying government, insurance, and health, I think, are the three like bad industries for like user interfaces in general.
The UK government's website, and as a result, the health's website, because it's government run, is actually pretty good. Which is a rarity for us.
Awesome.
They kind of revamped it quite recently, and it's actually really, really good, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm.
You're muted, Kev.
Damn it. So we're gonna bring on a couple of other guests. Rich, Simon, please stick around. We'll bring you on again in a bit. And yeah, see you soon. And let's
Thank
see
you.
here. All right. So next up, we have some external people. Well, one external people, one internal maintainer. So I'd like to welcome Patak from Vite. Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Congrats.
It's my ViteConf co-host.
Hey, Brittany.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you?
And then we have Dominic.
Hey there, how are you?
Hello.
Yeah. And Vite and Svelte have been working like closely together for a while, I think, correct?
Yeah.
What's the story here?
Yes. Like first, like from all the Vite team, like congrats from the 1.0. Like this is quite an important moment for Vite too, actually. Like I think Vite is where it is right now because of SvelteKit, because of the like risk you took by switching to it. And like there is a lot of like things going on between the two projects, like starting by Rollup that like Rich started, and then the SSR, like you did the history already, but like also the SSR shim that Vite took from the SvelteKit plus Snowpack time. That was like what enabled like other frameworks to say, okay, we also want in. So I think like SvelteKit choosing Vite at that point was like a big enabler for Vite moving forward.
It seemed to have like kicked off this waterfall effect of like frameworks adapting Vite. Like we have Astro. I'm gonna lose all of my mind like trying to list out all of them, but there's so many now that are using Vite under the hood. And you think that was like SvelteKit initially that like took the risk and
yeah, like once Vite 2 went out and like the framework agnostic story was starting to be possible, like as Rich said, that Vite 1 was like Vue kind of only. The problem was that, like, for example, Nax 3 adopted Vite, and that was kind of an obvious move. But if that only remained in the Vue realm, like Vite will not be what it ended up happening. And like SvelteKit was the first that was outside of Vue saying, yes, like this, we want this too. So I think that like Svelte solidified a lot the framework agnostic story. And then later started kind of like this tradition of like the framework maintainers using Vite getting involved in the development. Like we have like Dominic Shi and like Jorn Blue that is now part of the Vite team and is like from the Svelte team too. And Ben, for example, that like it has like done so much for Vite too. So I like after that, other frameworks starting to do the same, and we are getting PRs from like upstreaming like improvement from all the framework now.
That's awesome. Like it's been so cool to see Vite grow and just become this machine of a, I don't know what even call it. Like it's just taken over the web development world, kind of. At least it feels like it to me. Though I'm not really part of the WordPress or that other part of the web that we don't talk about. But yeah, at least for JavaScript developers, it's been great. And I'd like to congratulate you as well on the Vite 4 release. That was just last week, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We rushed it a bit actually to get here. It was important. It was important that you don't need to support Vite 3. And like,
that makes sense.
Tell us more.
But that speaks a little bit to the collaboration too, that we were able to like communicate with you and like work together on both of the launches, kind of coinciding together and make it happen.
This wasn't a coincidence. Like this was planned. We worked very hard to make this happen. At first, like I have to do a little correction to you, Patak. SvelteKit wasn't the first non-Vue project that supported Vite. There was a little tool called Suite. It still exists, actually.
Yes.
My work and made it possible to use Svelte with Vite version 1. One of my very first contributions to Vite itself was an issue where I asked for more framework compatibility and better support for plugins. So I hope I was a little spark that made some impact to what turned into SvelteKit and Vite in its current form. And I'm so glad that I was there to see what happened and build Vite plugin Svelte. And the release of Vite 4 was made possible by a tool called Vite Ecosystem CI. And this allows us to run a lot of tests of all the frameworks with the Vite CI suite and the framework CIs. So we have been very confident and actually supported Vite 4 in SvelteKit on the same day Vite 4 was released. We released a beta version of SvelteKit with Vite 4 support. And this is almost unheard of in other framework bundler situations. So we have a really great symbiotic relationship, really. Like, we take so much from Vite's features, but we also give a lot of PRs back. And it's really like, on ViteConf, there was a lot of talks about this. Go watch the whole stream. It's really, Vite is a great tool, and SvelteKit using it is awesome. And we make all the features available to all the users, and this is so cool. You already mentioned Ben and Bjorn. They are relentless in making Vite better and making SvelteKit better. So it's great to have them. And yeah.
Is Blue on that team also?
Yeah, Bjorn. Yeah.
Oh, Bjorn is Blue. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
So we had this discussion at Svelte Summit that our Discord names sometimes don't match up to our real names. And we had our real names on our tags at Svelte Summit. And we needed the Discord name and the avatar like next to it, so we knew who we were talking to.
Missed opportunity. Yeah, it's been great to see. Like, from the outside, it kind of feels like I've seen a lot of Svelte features that have kind of moved into Vite. Like the SSR thing was one of those things, right? Or some variation of it. I'm not that deep into what happens in the Vite ecosystem, so, but it's kind of cool to see this like extraction of features from other frameworks and then putting it into Vite so everyone can use it, I guess, is what happens.
Yeah. There's another story that shows how deep this integration goes. That's one feature in Rollup is that you can now have write bundle hook in a sequential way with an extra configuration. And the need for this feature was actually identified when people started trying to integrate Vite plugin PWA with SvelteKit, and both use the right bundle hook, and they have to use it in the right order so everything works. And then people started looking for ways to make it work, and it turned out that improving the hook interface for Rollup was the right way to do it. And so it happened. It took a while to get back to everyone, but today you can use Vite plugin PWA and SvelteKit together, and it just works. And it's not like a hacked together thing. It's an actual proper API with releases and everything. And so having this huge community of different frameworks working together and finding interoperability issues and fixing them upstream for everyone to use is what makes the Vite ecosystem so great. And SvelteKit is a huge part of that. If you look at the core commits in Vite, you'll find a lot of people there that are also contributing to the Svelte community. And it's great.
I was just leaving this comment on the stream because it's like you're being so humble at like calling out all of the other people that helped out with this project, and you're not taking credit for the thing that you single-handedly did in Vite ecosystem CI and doing that. So just wanted to leave that out there for you.
I will second that. Like I want to say on a stream and live that, like, thank you so much, Dominic, for what you did on Vite ecosystem CI, because it's completely changed the way we work with the ecosystem. Before this, like this was, I think we got it online maybe on January, like 1 year ago. And before this, it was mainly like pinging, like in DMs, hey, can you try like the release to see how it's working for you? And with Vite ecosystem CI, we have like the complete picture. I think there are around 15 projects, like 15 CIs independent of Vite core CI running. And we can run it for every PR. We can run it before each release. And now we were like in red for a while during the mayor, but now we are all green, and we are not going to release a patch if it's not green everywhere. So this brings a lot of stability that like it's not going to catch everything, of course, because like even with all the CIs in the world, but it gives us like a lot of confidence when like pressing that release button that like everything is kind of fine for all the major players. So thanks a lot, Dominic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. And thank you to everyone that worked on this project and the collaboration that went together to make all of this happen, and the support. I mean, just within a week, really, like we released 2 huge things and they're both in support of each other.
Yeah.
So I can tell something about Vite preprocess that was mentioned earlier if you want.
Yes, I mentioned that earlier, and yeah.
It's actually an idea I had early on in Vite plugin Svelte. Svelte preprocessors, they transform TypeScript and Sass and other CSS lingos to the regular Svelte component syntax. And they actually share a lot of similarities with the Vite transform pipeline. So I cooked up a hack that turned the Vite CSS plugin into a Svelte preprocessor. This only worked inside Vite plugin Svelte, but then half a year to a year later, Björn came around and said, hey, if we do this, we can just export it, and it works. And so with a little patch to Vite, we made it happen, and now you can use TypeScript and Sass and a lot of other Vite CSS features from Vite plugin Svelte, Vite preprocess without using Svelte preprocess. And it's actually, it has different features. Svelte preprocess still has some cool stuff that doesn't work in Vite preprocess, but Vite preprocess uses ESBuild for TypeScript, so it's faster for TypeScript transform, and it uses the Vite config. So all the aliases work in your CSS URLs, for example. It's just, it works. And it's one less dependency. So for simple and small projects where you don't need the features of Svelte preprocess, using Vite preprocess really makes it fast and easy.
And it's provided by Kit now. And then, like you said, if you don't use it, it just compiles.
It's not even Kit. It's Vite plugin Svelte. You can use it anywhere, but Kit exports it too. So in Kit, you don't have to manually install Vite plugin Svelte. You can just use it from Kit directly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And there's another cool feature. I showed it on Svelte Summit already, which is made possible by Vite entirely. This is the Svelte inspector.
Oh,
and
right.
Yeah.
We use this cool open in editor feature of Vite to just go to the component's source code directly by clicking on it. And this is a game changer and a time saver. It saved myself hours already, and it's not been out that long. So
this was
go check it out.
I'm going to find your talk from Svelte Summit and post that for everyone.
Yeah. Is that something that you could bring into Vite, like as a base feature of some kind?
This is a little bit difficult because it varies by framework from how to go there. But in theory, it's possible if you like load the source map and try to reverse it. It could work, but that needs extra planning and a different interface.
We were discussing with like the folks from Quick that like, because now all the framework have a similar shim, like a inspector to like Vue, Quick, and like Astro, and that maybe that could be something to share, at least like the UI. Maybe you like switch framework and it works the same way or something like that. Maybe there are some bits to upstream.
Yeah, I won't tell too much, but I have more ideas about cool development tools. So Vite plugin Svelte isn't done. There's more to come.
Great. You can talk about it at Svelte Summit maybe.
Maybe.
Do we have plans for the next Svelte Summit?
I mean, now I'm in Madeira at the moment, so I feel like this is a really nice place. Maybe a conference could be here.
Singapore.
Or Singapore. Yeah.
And please get started.
All right. Okay, so thanks, Patak and Dominic, for joining us. We're going to move on
to say one more.
Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
I would like to thank all the users that were with us during the pre-release period. All their reports helped tremendously, and we got so many great contributions. So SvelteKit wouldn't have been possible without all of you. So cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I just had my
Yes.
I have one shout out more also, like we already said, but for Lucas and their current roll-up team, because also like it's a huge part of Vite and of SvelteKit. So like, yeah, shout out for all the work that they are doing.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone really realizes that roll-up still plays a huge part in Vite itself, and all the original work that went into it is still ongoing.
It does. It's the most important part, actually. The users can't use your application without roll-up building it.
There's an ES build option somewhere in there as well. I honestly still am trying to figure it out.
No, right now without roll-up, it wouldn't work at all.
Okay.
Period. It's great. So Lucas, wherever you are, thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, and thank both of you for coming on and talking with us about Vite and the support and SvelteKit and how we all collaborate together. We appreciate it, and thank you for your work.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Congrats.
for coming on.
All right, and I think we're going to transition over to our community panel now. We're going to have a few guests on and just chit-chat a little bit about how they're using Svelte and what's going on in the community.
Cool. Yeah, so
I'll dip out for work stuff, but I'll catch up on the stream in a bit. See you guys.
All right.
See ya.
See ya. All right. So we have Andrew, or as he's more widely known as SilentWorks. We have Josephine, Storyblock, more widely known as Josephine as well.
Is that a sticker on your shirt?
No, it's too cold here to wear a t-shirt, so it was like, how can I get my sweater?
And then, last but not least, we also have Scott of Level Up Tutorials fame. Yay! Welcome.
Hey,
Hey.
How's it going? We got the professional audio game going over there. Like I hear the different.
I blame traveling. That's why I don't have mine.
Oh,
but
mine is just okay at best.
Yours is fine. Yours is definitely fine. All right. So what are you guys feeling? Are you happy that SvelteKit 1.0 is finally here?
Oh yeah, I'm really psyched just for the sheer amount of things that I don't have to worry about anymore in terms of breaking changes, especially in my code base, but also, in our tutorials. I think there was like an 11th hour, I guess that's the saying, where what was it? The invalid function was changed to fail. And I was just like 1 second away from deploying that or recording that video. So I'm psyched about that.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice change. But first of all, congrats also from my side, right? This is huge. And we all kind of had a feeling it was coming, but it's so exciting that it's finally here. And I'm like, just from the stream, I'm getting real like Svelte Summit vibes. This feels so nice.
I know.
Get together.
At Svelte Summit too, you were kind of talking about the same thing, how you were like spending nights like trying to get it ready, the demo ready for the release candidate announced. And it was like all the breaking changes had just happened. And it's been a journey for everyone.
Yeah, that was a lot of crying over lost tutorials, right? Yeah, but I guess now is the time that we can finally put this all together, and
Yeah, it does feel like we're finally there. So you work at Supabase, Andrew. Like you've also been doing some content, right, for SvelteKit and how to use it. Are you having the same experience and the same joy, I guess, of finally being in 1.0?
Yeah, definitely. I think similar to what Scott said earlier, I was just working on a quick start template and realized that all my invalids were all broken.
Wait, what?
So, yeah.
I no. Is this new?
Yes, this is new.
This is new. Invalid is no more. It's now fail.
Oh,
now
last
fail.
minute change. Oh,
I see Simon
interesting.
laughing backstage. I want to bring Simon in to like see what he's thinking.
Yeah. So
now he's hiding his face. Like...
I mean, Rich kind of promised at Svelte Summit that there would be no more breaking changes.
Yeah, I remember that.
A little bit of a promise, yeah.
Well, this seems to have been a small one, right? Just a word change, kind of, or is it bigger than that?
Happened just a couple of like small little word changes, like the Vite preprocess. Was that the most recent one? Like that one broke something of mine this week, and that was the last thing I saw. But
I haven't hit that as yet, so hopefully it was from way earlier and not just recently.
Rich says no more planned breaks.
Okay, yeah, that was the caveat there.
Put it, yeah.
Yeah.
So are you guys excited to bring in more people to Svelte? Like, can you actually recommend it now? I know you could already recommend it, right? But now it's 1.0 officially, so.
Yeah, I can feel really good about recommending it because I do already do that nonstop, and it's I'm always kind of like in the back of my mind being like, please no more breaking changes. That'd be great. So now I'm going to feeling great about not only sharing what I've learned from building my app in SvelteKit and seeing it evolve, but also just in general letting people know that hey, these APIs in SvelteKit do the same kind of like awesome stuff that Svelte does to the UI, but they do it for the full stack. There's endless amounts of like life improvements that you can have by building your app in SvelteKit, where it does all these things for you that typically in the past we were just grinding away and doing ourselves.
Absolutely. Now you can feel confident releasing your course, right? And not feel like it's going to break the next week.
Speaking of, it is out right now on levelup.video. I was up very late last night editing because I had to, do some last minute video changes and some API changes for some videos and re-record a little bit here and there. But it is out right now. Levelup.video. It's a full course on SvelteKit with all the version 1 APIs. Everything is up to date. It's 31 videos on everything that I've learned from building levelup.video on SvelteKit. It's out today, and it's on sale right now, and you can go subscribe to become a subscriber, or you can purchase it outright.
Awesome.
Nice.
And you have plans for like more in-depth tutorials over the next year, right? Like you're going to break them up a little bit?
Yeah, totally. So we already have like a bunch of Svelte tutorials. So we have building Svelte components. We have Svelte like 101 essentially. We have animating Svelte. So we have a lot of like Svelte specific tutorials, and then now we have the SvelteKit tutorial that's up to date. And then what we're going to be doing from there is doing some more smaller videos, or smaller courses. So one with Supabase, one with MongoDB, one with just how to use TypeScript in SvelteKit. A lot of full stack stuff. So if you're into SvelteKit, we're going to be having a ton of content out this year.
Sweet.
I have a feeling there's a lot more coming. Everybody has just been waiting for this, right? And now there's going to be so much cool content everywhere. Really, I'm ready for it.
Same.
Absolutely. And I know Storyblog was like having that hump of like trying to get over the SvelteKit, like breaking changes. And you're finally there too, right? Like everything is
Yeah, we were trying our best. No, we just was it today that I updated the tutorial because we made some changes to the SDK and things are a lot better already. And now I feel like people are mentioning some more breaking changes and I didn't dare to check because I was like, I'm going to wait until maybe it's over and then I'm going to go fix it. Yeah, but we're ready to release more content as well and dive a little bit deeper into how, because I feel like Storyblock and SvelteKit are such a good match because of the component approach. And I feel like, there's going to be lots more exciting stuff to explore.
Awesome.
Nice. And on the Supabase front, what's going on there with SvelteKit?
Yeah, so we have been working on the auth helpers to make auth work more seamlessly with the SSR stuff. We had help from a community member, David. Just want to give a shout out to David. Who's helped with that quite a lot, and he's also working on the auth UI stuff. So when you're creating your whole login system, you'll have a whole UI and backend helper to help you throughout the whole process of just getting the whole auth set up in one go.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is
awesome. And Supabase with SvelteKit is already awesome. So I'm really excited to see that.
Cool.
All right. So anything else you guys want to add before we move on to the future of SvelteKit?
Just a congratulations for me on everybody involved in the project. Holy cow.
Yeah, and a massive shout out to this amazing community. Like, this is genuinely the most welcoming community I've ever been a part of, and it just feels like a big family gathering. So I'm super glad we also managed to do this virtually and not only at Svelte Summit.
I completely agree with that. And that was the whole point of having this, showing like the community support is just, it's totally unbelievable to me. Like, even after Svelte Summit, like, people would come up to me, oh, you did such a great job. Like, they're so supportive and giving in this community. And I love all of the support and the friends that you can find. It's just a very close-knit community. And that doesn't mean that it's small. We're growing every day, but we keep it somehow like feels like a tight small town community, but you're still growing and getting bigger every day. And it's just an amazing place to be.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
Really thanks to you and Kev as well, Brittany, for doing this amazing job of Svelte Radio and Svelte Society. You know, it's really good seeing this growing and just keep on going.
And thank you to Anthony and Sean, who aren't here with us right now, but they're also a part of the team. And then we have Svelte Society, we have Svelte Sirens, all of these little. There's Anthony.
Hey.
You were gone, so I removed you. I didn't realize you were back, so sorry about that. Yeah. So we were all at Svelte Summit except Scott. Maybe next year you can come as well.
I'll be here.
Hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Won't miss it.
Awesome. Great. All right. Thanks for coming on and talking about Svelte Summit. SvelteKit. We'll see you all in a bit, and we'll bring back Rich and Simon.
Oh, as Rich walks away.
All right, so Simon's back. There's Simon, and there's Rich standing up. Oh,
Sorry,
no.
I had to go and let a delivery person in or something.
No worries.
Oh, no. All right.
Need to catch some more wood for your fire in the background. Yeah.
I actually have a real fireplace, but it's been
decommissioned.
It's no longer usable.
You know, wood is actually super expensive nowadays in Sweden due to the electricity prices and stuff. People are like buying up all the wood.
Really, your entire country is just a giant forest.
Yeah, but I don't know. You need to dry it, and you need to do stuff to make it like into
actual
proper
prepared firewood. Yeah. Is that a wood burning fireplace behind you, or is it gas?
That's a TV.
Yeah, the one that's not
a TV.
No, down below.
It is a nothing burning fireplace. It's decorative. I mean, I assume it worked at one point, but there's probably
nothing.
There's probably
I think most of them in the US are gas now, right? Like, we use natural gas for fireplaces. There's not, I wouldn't say there's a ton, unless you get an older home, I guess, of wood burning fireplaces here.
Yeah, I'm always so excited if I go to like an Airbnb and they have a wood burning stove.
The smell of like the wood burning.
I get to pretend that I'm in the 19th century. It's like poker fire with an iron stick. It makes me very happy.
It actually is very, very soothing to like stoke the fire. Is it stoke the fire?
There's something
primal. Poke it with a poker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk a bit about the future of Svelte and SvelteKit. Where are we headed? Do you guys know? Does anyone know?
We were headed till today, and that is
1.0.
When 2.0? I'm going to ask.
I'm headed to. This has been quite a lot of work, and I am just about ready to go and get drunk. But I think there's a lot to talk about for SvelteKit's future, and I know Dominic has a lot of thoughts of his own that we should ask him to share. The roadmap that we've talked about already includes things like built-in internationalization support, which we historically have not done a great job of. Like that is very much left to you, the developer, and it's a hard problem to solve. And I think the framework can do a lot to fix that. Image optimization is another big one. Like one of the reasons that apps built in Next.js tend to be quite performant is that Next image makes it really easy to optimize your images. The default experience of loading an image on the web is actually not that great, and we can probably do better. The sites that we maintain ourselves, we use vimage tools to optimize our images, and that works really well. But we want that to be a turnkey thing. That it's like hard to build an application without having optimized images. I think that's the goal. Other things that we've talked about: granular control over which parts of your application are deployed to the edge, which parts of your app are deployed close to where the data is because they depend on that data. Granular control over whether a given route uses Node.js or can run in a Cloudflare worker or Dino or a Vercel edge function, whatever it is. And a bunch of other things that I just can't remember right now because I'm losing my marbles. But I don't know, maybe you have thoughts, Simon, on things that you would like to get into SvelteKit now that we've hit scale.
I think we can do a little bit around the loading experience. So for example, Next.js has a loading.js file, and I think we will probably steal this to some extent and have something like if your data does load not that fast and you just want to show like a skeleton screen or something, so like to have the snappy instant page navigation so that on the client you get the loading screen experience while the data is loading in the background, something like that. But apart from that, I don't have
Is that some kind of like
things at the top of my head
API that would like load something while just the data is like, so you have a loading spinner basically while the data is loading?
Basically. So you could do a loading spinner, could do a skeleton UI, something that is shown right away while in the background the data is loading.
Something built in for that would be really nice.
What's really nice about the plus syntax is that you can kind of have loads more plus files for things like that, like plus loader. It kind of opens the doorway. Plus transition, it gives us a way of having different sort of things, extensions, or you want to call it, without having to have some random API method like on component did unmount, for example.
I do like that a lot. And as much as I fought this plus syntax, and I really hate the way it looks, by the way, like it is just ugly in the file system. Like there are some really good benefits to it. And I have to say with Next.js and kind of stealing that RFC from Next.js with the layouts, it was almost better implemented than I think Next 13's implementation of it, where they just have page.js and you don't have the plus syntax, and it's a little like not finished almost. So like I feel like SvelteKit did a little bit better there.
Yeah, it's like Amy said in that testimonial video, like you can just like put your component next to your pages. Yeah. It's very, very nice. So we have a question
which is
from,
a good way to do it.
Yeah. So we have a question from
you can do that in
Next.js
too, but I mean, one of the advantages of the plus in front is that it's like all the special files are at the top.
Yeah.
And they are not
exactly.
intertwined. So.
I mean, you could do it before as well.
I can understand that some people find the plus weird.
Before you could do it just if you had a what's it called, an underscore before the final.
Yeah, with the private files basically.
Yeah. So there's a question here from Adios Mani. He's curious if we're likely to see Svelte get more opinionated about font and script loading. So, for example, like next font or next script.
Hey, Eddie. It's great to see you here. Probably at some point. Yeah. I mean, I said before, it would be nice if it was just like hard to build an app that didn't have optimized images. And I think the same is true for fonts and scripts. We do have an API for preloading fonts. If you implement your own handle hook, you can specify which assets will get preload links generated for them automatically. By default, we will preload your JavaScript and we'll preload your CSS because that is stuff that we know that you're going to need basically immediately, and we can improve the time to interactive by getting a jump on preloading that stuff. Fonts is a little bit tricky because the way that browsers load fonts is based on what text currently appears on the screen. And so we don't preload your fonts by default, but we do give you the ability to preload fonts if you know what you're doing. And ideally, if we were to have something similar to Next Font, then we'll go a step beyond that and be able to figure out which fallback fonts we could use that would allow you to use custom web fonts without a layout shift when the font loads. And so there's all of this like crazy stuff that you can do to get really good Lighthouse scores. And I'm sure that in the beginning, this stuff will come out of the community, but ultimately as the best practices develop around this, I consider it part of a framework's job to incorporate the best stuff from userland and make it available to everyone as a configuration setting or like a built-in component or whatever it is that makes it such that everyone just kind of gets this stuff as part of the default experience of building a SvelteKit app.
I do like that about SvelteKit, that we provide so much out of the box for you that it makes things easier maybe to do the right thing without having to choose to do the right thing or know what to do for the right thing. But like you said, with preloading fonts, like I usually just go into the app.html file, the like template file, and put things in my head tag and just use regular HTML properties in there. Like you can do whatever you need to do in that template file and it will load for you on the whole site.
Yeah. Like I've been doing some work with like, so for fonts specifically, like you could do a lot of cool stuff with fonts, right? You could, what's it called when you just use the letters that are actually on the page, subset, right? It's like, and always like comes back to bite me. I think Rich, you've like multiple times mentioned at the like not last year, like a couple of months ago, like that some letters on the Svelte Summit website was weird. And so
I don't know what subset is, what property you're talking about.
Yeah, so that's basically when you take the font file and you run it through like a processor, I guess, a preprocessor, and you just like remove the letters or characters that aren't on your page. So the font file itself gets smaller.
Oh, get smaller. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
It's like tree shaking for fonts.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can only really do it for pre-rendered pages because it's too expensive to do dynamically. And so you need to know ahead of time what content is going to be. And this is the kind of thing that, because Svelte is designed with things like pre-rendering in mind, because we're not just like bolting it on after the fact, because it's actually a core feature of the framework, we can potentially offer certain optimizations that apply to pre-rendered pages. And that's the kind of thing that would fall under that category.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about SvelteKit, and we have one last top.
Dominic on, right? And let him talk about some of his future of SvelteKit plans and.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think he has some.
Here he is.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. I'd like to actually pick up where Rich left. You made this queue so great. The main benefit of Svelte and SvelteKit that is often overlooked is that we use a compiler and we use a framework to build an application, and the framework and the Svelte, it disappears. It allows us to make new optimizations and new features, and you, with your application, you consume them by updating. You don't have to change a single line of code to get optimized font rendering. SvelteKit does it for you. So if you are building an application that has a lifespan planned of 5 or 6 years, you often start out and use the current major version of a framework, and then you stay there. You just stop evolving at some point because migrating costs a lot of time and money and effort and testing. With Svelte and SvelteKit, this is less because you have less to do to migrate to a newer version. You get new features basically for free. You just change the dependency versions, and most of the times it will just work. And other times when we do bigger changes like the routing, we head out and build migration scripts. We have this small package called Svelte Migrate. If we feel it's worth doing it, we can do migrations for other things too later. So using SvelteKit for your application is not just about building things fast. You can keep them fast and you can keep consuming new features with less effort. This is like the same concept as when you rewrite something in Svelte. We've seen multiple people saying, hey, my app size shrunk by 40, 50%. The changes you have to do are also only 40 or 50% of what you do in other typical frameworks. So you are getting a framework that allows you to do what you want and allows you to consume updates at a faster pace too. It's literally like there's so much you can do and we can do together as a community, because like building SvelteKit and no one using it would be a fun experiment, but let's face it, we want this to be used, and you should, because it's great. And we are not here for the short term. We are here for making it work for the next years, and your project will be great when you build it with SvelteKit. There's no doubt in my mind about it. So that's basically what I wanted to say, and I had this in my mind for a long time, and it's great to see it finally being 1.0, and it's going to be 2.0 at some point. Probably the adapters will get major releases faster because there's still stuff we can do there that's easier to do than releasing another major of SvelteKit. Maybe SvelteKit 2.0 is tomorrow because we find some huge bug units. But I don't know.
like it doesn't migrate
right? For everyone's sake. That's such a great point, though. Having the compiler is just such a powerful tool to provide all of these utilities.
It's kind of like a cheat code.
It is.
Speaking of cheat codes, while Dominic's here, I got to shout out the inspector. Used that a lot when building the new SvelteKit website, and it's so good. You just press Command Shift, click on an element, and it opens your editor like right where that element is, and you can start making changes immediately.
I didn't mention it much, but did you know that the inspector is also accessible now? It uses an announcer to announce the element you are currently using, and you can use up, left, right, and down to switch the elements and press the Enter key to go there. It works.
That's
just insane. Amazing work.
No idea. Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this and you haven't checked out the inspector, you got to check it out. Like it's so cool.
There are more development tools I have in mind. You can compile Svelte in your head if you are Li Haotan, but at some point you will be able to compile Svelte in your browser. Not just in your browser, but for real, you can see every step and it gets explained, but it'll take a little while to get there.
Yeah, so that's a good segue. Like speaking of dev tools, you guys recently managed to get a hold of the Chrome DevTools repo, right? What's going on with that? Because I think that's pretty not working right now, or is it working? I haven't used it in a while. So.
It used to work.
I think it used to work at some point, but it broke with some Chrome update. So if you're like on the very old Chrome version, it will work still, or if you're using Firefox, it will also continue to work. But yeah, it's pretty unmaintained currently, and I think so. Ben McCann is spearheading the effort to get it transferred to the org, and I think what's missing currently is that we get the deployment access to the Chrome and Firefox store, so that we can fully take over. The repository is already been transferred to the Svelte org, but we need the deployment rights. And once we get that, I definitely will look into dusting this off and get it into good shape.
Yeah. I have to shout out to Anthony real quick here, because did you know that you can use an adapter to build web extensions with SvelteKit?
Yeah.
So
I forgot to release that actually.
Anthony has an adapter web extension, and SvelteKit really gives you so many options. You can also use it inside Tauri in a really great way. So native applications and desktop applications with SvelteKit are also just a few lines of setup away.
I'm glad you mentioned Tauri. Somebody earlier was saying, can we expect Svelte 4 soon? And is it going to be built in Rust?
Definitely not soon. Sometime in 2023, I think we can probably commit to that. But beyond that, I don't want to make any promises. We have a lot of ideas for Svelte.
So that means 2025, right?
Ouch! Listen, dagger to the heart.
So how can before we talk about that, just real quick, we have some questions in the chat about where can people see the inspector? Where can they find it?
The easiest way is to enable it in your Vite config. In your Svelte config, you go into the Svelte config and add a key Vite plugin, and then you add a subkey experimental, because right now this inspector, even if it fully works, is still not completely done. And then you set inspector to true, and then you start your dev server and it works. There's a documentation about it in the Svelte, in the Vite plugin Svelte repo. I hope someone can link it. If not, let me see if I can find it real quick.
Oh, I can find it.
I just shared my screen, so you can see how using it on the Kit website. This won't help for people listening to this podcast after the stream ends, but for people watching now,
play back.
This is all that's involved.
Yeah, there's documentation in the repo that I linked there. I'm pretty sure. All right, yeah. So you were starting to talk a bit about Svelte 4. Someone mentioned Rust. That's probably quite a big feature or
rewrite.
Rewrite, yeah. So what does Svelte 4 contain if you look 2 years into the future, what does Svelte 4 look like?
I'm always so wary about talking about this stuff in a way that makes it sound like these are going to be like we just don't know. Like we might do the exploration and discover that some of these things don't make sense. But the big thing in my mind is changing the compiler output in a way that will make hydration more efficient, that will make very large apps scale at a much slower pace. So at the moment, even though your any individual page's Svelte components is going to be very small, if you have hundreds of components on a page, then the size of your bundle kind of goes up a little bit faster than we'd like. We think we can change the compiler output in a way that is going to just completely change that trajectory. And also enable some features that Svelte has historically lacked, like component error boundaries and things like that. These are things that weren't really a thing when Svelte 3 came out. And as I was saying before, the competition is constantly up in their game, so we have to up ours. And these are things that we would like to add. Other things are things that weren't possible when Svelte 3 came out because the web platform wasn't ready. A good example would be web animation API. At the moment, when you add a transition to a Svelte element or an element in Svelte, it will compute a CSS keyframe animation for that transition and then apply it to the element. And that works. It means that you get the benefit of the rendering happening off thread, like you're not doing a lot of work in JavaScript, which is good for performance, it's good for battery life, but it's kind of hacky, doesn't work super well with content security policies because you need to inject inline styles. And so we would like, if we can, to drop that in favor of a web animation API based transition system. Speaking of transitions, I'm very inspired by some of the things that we see coming out of like frame of motion. Some of that stuff is really exciting. I think that should be built into a UI framework because it's a core part of UI. As for whether we're going to rewrite everything in Rust, I don't know. I do have a it could be faster, obviously. Not your Svelte application, but the compiler itself. So your build step could be faster if all of your build stuff is happening in Rust. And I don't think that is a major blocker for people using Svelte at the moment, but more speed is always nice.
The AST
would be nice.
Sorry?
What was that noise?
I think Simon said something about an AST.
Sorry, was that me? I said something and it came out wrong at the other end. I was going to add for Rust that if we do it, then probably the biggest speed passing and transforming the text input into an AST. That is probably the place where it would do the most.
Gotcha. So you talked a bit about the animations that they were done in a bit of a hacky way, and the good thing of I just want to bring it back to what Dominic said. Like the good thing about this being a compiler is that you won't even have to change anything, right? It'll just like upgrade your old applications pretty much. That's
a theory. I mean, if you have custom transitions, then those would need to be rewritten to use web animations. I don't know if we'll be able to make that backward compatible, although maybe we'll have some sort of a compat mode. We'll have to find out.
But the old ones,
the idea
like
is that we want Svelte 4 to be an easy upgrade for people that just makes their applications better. We don't want it to be a Angular 1, Angular 2 situation, or for that matter, a Svelte 2, Svelte 3 situation. And so it's going to take some time, like to juggle all of the different moving parts and make it a seamless release that people can adopt straight away is going to be tough. But like I say, I feel pretty good that we can do it in 2023.
Yeah.
Awesome. Looking forward to
And I guess on that note, we have Svelte 4 confirmed for 2020. No, I'm just kidding. On that note,
2023, Svelte 4.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. So we're at the end of the stream. Thank you guys for
leading up to a summit. Okay.
Yeah. So we're at the end of the stream. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us. And we're super happy to finally have 1.0
too, right?
Oh, picks.
And to all the like, there's still 250 people watching us babble on. I can't believe it. To everyone watching this,
it's amazing.
I know a lot of you are people who have contributed directly to the projects over the last couple of years. Thank you so much. Like, you really do make this what it is, and we are so appreciative of that. Thank you.
Simon's back. Yeah, thank you to everyone that's used Svelte, that's here watching. Like, this has been an amazing stream. And I know we did one unpopular opinion earlier. We usually do like unpopular opinions and then our picks. I don't know, does anybody else have an unpopular opinion? Today feels like I'm not into unpopular opinion today.
Let's just do some quick picks.
Okay.
If we have some. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I'm gonna pick Madeira. It's a nice island.
The city. And what country?
Island.
Island.
It's Portugal.
Yeah. Nice.
It's very warm, 20 degrees, as I said at the start. It's very nice. I can recommend it.
I think it's famous for Madeira wine as well, but I could be wrong.
It is.
Yeah.
No, it is.
Anthony is trying to be quiet for the baby, so I will go ahead and mention his pick. Svelte London is going to be next Tuesday, December 20th. I think that is right. There is a guild event, and it's going to be virtual and in person. So if anyone wants to join, there might be a special guest speaker that's on this call right now. Rich Harris is going to be giving a talk at the event. And my pick is Svelte Sirens event tomorrow. We're having a stream with Skeleton UI Toolkit, so come and watch that and see how to use it's Tailwind CSS. So if you're not a fan of Tailwind, we'll maybe see you after the stream. But Tailwind CSS UI Toolkit called Skeleton, and skeleton.dev is the website, and we'll be streaming that tomorrow. And there's an event in Discord or on my Twitter because, here's the YouTube link. I have the YouTube link. We're all organized today. There we go.
Yes, very much.
This is never how a real episode goes, by the way. Wink, wink.
No, never.
So
all right.
I'm going to pick Svelte package. We haven't mentioned it in the stream before, but you can actually use SvelteKit to build Svelte libraries. And it's going to drastically improve the build and release experience for Svelte libraries very soon. We released version 1.0 today, so all the packages adhere to Zemver and you can use them, but we are far from done with this package, so you can expect more goodness from there too.
That is a great show.
I invite everyone to try it.
One of my favorite things. I love it.
It's really great. You get typings for your components. You get export maps. You get all things done for you. You can just hop in and type a publish command and it's on NPM. So that's my pick.
All right. Svelte package.
We had one from the chat too. I do want to shout this one out because I love Alex Trost is an amazing community member. Front End Horse is the name of his Twitch show. But every year at Christmas, he does a holiday snowtacular thing where he gives back to charity. And they're giving back to Doctors Without Borders this year. And Scott Talinsky is going to be on talking about SvelteKit. So I'm going to share the Twitch stream. There's not like an event per se, but this is the Twitch link to go. And that is on this Friday, actually.
All right. Let's get some money to doctors.
Yeah.
All right. Simon, do you have a pick for us?
My pick. I think my pick is the upcoming version 3 of SvelteCheck. So Ideally, I wanted to get this out before Kit 1.0 so that everyone who is like trying SvelteKit out now would get the latest and greatest of SvelteCheck. But there was just too much other stuff to do. So basically, Svelte check is like the command line type checking tool that makes it possible to type check both your Svelte and or TypeScript files. And we have been working on under the hood, we have to transform Svelte to something TypeScript can understand. And that transformation has completely been rewritten from the ground up and is now more robust, has less leakage. Like sometimes you think, why is there a JSX error in my Svelte file? And so these things are all gone, and it just needs some more polishing, and then we can release version 3 of that. So that's
you had JSX code in Svelte. What is happening?
Yeah,
that's
so
my unpopular no JSX. It's probably only unpopular in this community.
Little secret that Svelte code was for a long time was for type checking purposes transformed to JSX code, but from now on, it's in the future it will be transformed to TypeScript code, like
awesome.
TS without the X.
All right. Last pick or picks?
I have a couple of picks actually. For a long time I had a bit of microphone envy whenever I was talking to Kevin. We always used to joke that Kevin has like an ASMR voice, and so I went out and I got myself an ASMR microphone.
Oh, that's
the Shure MV7. Yeah, so having fun with that.
I'm so glad you did that.
my other pick, so something that was released during this stream, but we haven't had a chance to talk about yet, didn't include it in the announcement blog post because it wasn't yet a thing, is SvelteKit Auth. The team behind Next.js, which is a very widely used library for doing authentication in Next apps. It allows you to integrate with like GitHub sign-on and Google and GitHub and Twitter and like all of these different OAuth providers, or like, you know, email and password, all of these different methods of authentication. Makes it really, really easy to use that in a Next app. The team behind that has been very hard at work over the last few weeks, turning Next.auth into a framework agnostic auth solution. And they launched today with SvelteKit support, and they worked incredibly hard to make that happen today so that it could be part of the SvelteKit launch day. And it's ready now. It's out. So as soon as you get off the stream, I'm gonna kick the tires on that and have a play, because that is one of the big missing pieces of application development, and it's done.
Oh my gosh. If you waited till the end of the stream, if you hung on, you got 2 big announcements today. That is incredible.
Do you have a link for us? Where can we check this out?
Somewhere. Yeah. Can I just put that in the chat there?
Yeah, I can relay it to the comments. Yep.
Cool.
Okay.
That is really awesome.
Yeah.
All right. That's a
step
good
one to like
announcement to
stealing
end on.
all of the good Next.js stuff into SvelteKit so we can get all of the goodies. And now we got next image to come, and we're gonna get all of them eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Soon they'll stop working on this React stuff that they're whatever that is. Who knows? Anyway, sorry. All right. So again, thank you all for coming on and talking about SvelteKit. And congrats on finally getting it released. I know you guys have been working very hard for quite some time now. It feels like since after like the run up to Svelte Summit, and then just past that, you've been like heads down, just getting to 1.0.
And need some well-deserved time off and a break over the holidays. So please go and enjoy yourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And on that note, goodbye
Thank
to
you,
everyone
everyone
listening and watching. And yeah, see you next time.
We'll see you later.
All right.